Kia ora koutou. Welcome to HR Chats with Terada. I'm Terada and I'm chatting all things HR and HR related. And today I am chatting those things with Jocelyn Visser. She knows a lot about HR. She's an HR nerd. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. Jocelyn, she is. She's an experienced HR consultant with a broad range of expertise and interests across the industry. She honed her skills in a sole charge role prior to her current role at My HR. She's got a background encompassing over 8 years of management experience, and she has a passion in upskilling managers and owners on navigating the world of HR within their businesses, empowering them as leaders, and deep diving into the strategy and culture of an organization. Today, we're probably talking, Jocelyn, about none of those things. When you're at a dinner party, hello, Jocelyn. When you're at a dinner party and people say, "What do you do?" What do you say?
I start with just the plain HR consultant and see whether that either turns people completely off, like when you say you're an accountant and they go, "Oh no, I don't want nothing to do with you," or they go, "Oh, okay, what does it actually involve?" And then I talk about people, because that's really what HR is all about, right? It's about our people and how we make work a cool and fun place to be. You spend so much of your time there, and especially around people leaders and how we can empower them and support them to grow their people. Good people lead good people lead good people. It's this beautiful waterfall ripple effect that happens in HR, and I like to think HR at the center of that ripple, causing all this great stuff to flow out.
Yes, because I could imagine that, for people, and we're really going to aim this discussion for people who are entering the industry, but there could well be people sitting out there who are thinking a career change. Oh, maybe I'll do HR, but I don't really know what HR is. I guess there is, for many people, a sort of a sense of that. Oh, I guess it's almost an old school HR. You put an ad in somewhere to find someone to fill a position.
Yep.
Done.
Yep. Hiring, firing. That's the old school HR.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, that's what they think. They're like, okay, so you fire people and maybe you do some recruitment. And I'm like,
I like Jocelyn, how you went to that first.
Yeah.
Because that is people's often that can be
is
people's relationship, and you see it within that thing. Oh, it's going to HR, and
Yeah. Whether awful
yes.
police that slap your wrists when you do something wrong. And the reality is, in HR, we do play a part in that when it's needed, but honestly, we don't want to do that. We want to do all the things before people get to that point to support them. So okay, a person's not performing. What training and support do they need? Someone's having some conduct issues. Okay, how do we improve our culture and our engagement? Like, let's look at proactive solutions, not just reactive stuff. HR is so broad.
It's really, really broad, actually. And you kind of wonder, if people are going through their study program, for example, and they're thinking about this, or they're aiming towards this, is there anything they should think about doing? Was there anything that you did perhaps in your university experience that really set you up for a career in HR?
Yeah, totally. My two biggest tips are read and network. Read far and wide, and I use the term read generally. That includes podcasts, audiobooks, physical books, articles. Just consume information. And again, I am a self-proclaimed nerd, so definitely love consuming information. But it really helps you kind of understand the broad range of HR and different people in the space. You can hear from learning and development specialists what they're doing and go, oh, actually, that sounds cool. You can read about cases coming out of the Employment Relations Authority and go, oh, actually, that employment law aspect is really cool. So it helps you kind of get a gauge on just the broad range of things that there are available in HR, but it also goes, hey, what are the specific things I'm interested in and not interested in, which will help you when you're looking for a role, hone in on those specific roles. And the same is said with networking. You read a book or listen to a podcast and you're like, hey, that person's cool. I kind of like what they had to say. Find them on LinkedIn, chat. Like, very few people are going to say no if you go, hey, I heard you on this thing. I'd love to take you out for a coffee. Can we just have like a 30-minute chat about, HR and your experience? Very few people are going to say no to that. So, reach out. Don't be afraid to ask things, even if you're like, this is so weird and awkward. Lean into the awkwardness and just ask. Just ask.
I think this, it is important, isn't it? That be curious and not just about what drives people. I'm thinking of everything from gender politics to the role of privilege, all the way through to, if you're thinking about a particular sector, technology and construction, or mining, or whatever it is that you're thinking on. The more you know around that sector, the more you can understand and help people get into that particular area, or out of it, indeed, if they want to, or to grow within it. Are there any, great places that people can go to? I'm always a big fan of like a really good aggregator, someone who's looking at all of this stuff and they think this is great.
Yeah.
Is there anyone for, a nerd like you that you almost your second click of the day after you've checked your LinkedIn?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously HRNZ is one of them. The podcast here that we're doing, the articles that come out, the webinars, they are so useful. The cafe connects and things like that, where you actually meet real humans who do this stuff every day, are so incredibly valuable. A couple of my other kind of thought leaders that I like are Alicia Mckay. She's a strategy and leadership expert out of Wellington. Very, like, she calls herself a rebel, and I really think she is, revolutionizing how we do management. Much more kind of management focused than HR, but of course there's so many transferable things there. And then Simon Sinek, I know it's an oldie but a goodie, but his books and his thoughts are so interesting, and I've never read or seen something from him that I've gone, that was not great. And the last one, because it came to me as I was talking, is and I haven't checked it out yet, but I've been recommended the podcast by Patrick Lencioni. So he's another good one in the kind of leadership management space. People may have heard of the 5 dysfunctions of a team. That's Lencioni's model. And again, what I love about Lencioni is he takes these kind of crazy big, really academic subjects and turns them into really simple human language, which is such a valuable skill.
Did you know all of this in a way before you started in HR? Or did anyone say to you, hey, this is what you should be doing? How'd you get into it? And was there anything you thought, oh, I wish I'd known that before I began my journey into the dark arts?
Into the dark arts, very much. It really, for me, came back to that networking and reading. All these people I've talked about, I found them through Alicia Mckay. I found through HRNZ. It was at a event or the summit years ago. Connected with her on LinkedIn, and now she's got a book. I've read a book. Like, it's just this, hey, this thing was interesting, I'm going to connect with them and keep watching them. And Simon Sinek and Lencioni and pretty much everyone that I follow, actually, it's all people that have either been recommended by people in my network, or you do a uni reading and it's like, you see the references and it's like, reference, blah, 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 Lencioni, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, maybe I'll check that out. And just keep asking questions, staying curious and figuring out where you can get the stuff from.
It's a good one, of course, looking at the references and actually going, this was a great article, and then digging deeper into it and then getting that little reading list of references. There'll be people who are going, yep, I'm doing that. I'm enjoying my course. It's all going well, but there's, we're getting closer, inching inexorably closer to the time where I have to leave the course behind and into the wide ocean of the world of HR. Got to go out and get a role. What's your top tips for getting your first HR role?
Great question. And I guess it's less of a tip, more of just a reality. Is you kind of have there's this myth when we leave uni, right? That it's like you're going to leave uni and you're going to find a role and it's going to be perfect and you're going to make your way up, and you're going to know everything, and you've done this awesome uni course and you're going to go in with all this knowledge. You get in the job and you're like, oh, okay, this is all very different. So much of what uni prepares us for is those critical thinking skills, thinking laterally, being curious. A lot of the actual, tangible things you do, like I remember doing a learning and development course at uni. It was only 5 years into my career that I actually started applying that knowledge. So I guess as a tip, it's go in with a really open mind and being curious, like just try and learn and adapt what you can when you're in a role. My other key thing that I would say is more important than looking for roles is look for industries that you're interested in. So a lot of HR, especially in New Zealand, it's small to medium enterprises, right? That's our bread and butter here. So most organizations have either one person HR team or a very small team. So cracking into that, you sometimes have to be a bit creative how you go through that. So look for your industries, and if you're like, hey, I love the trades, construction's really interesting to me, look for admin roles in construction, anything to kind of get your foot in the door, any admin roles, any kind of customer service reception roles. I know it seems counterintuitive because they're not HR roles, but get your foot in the door and then start showing how you can do the HR stuff, suggest projects like, hey, I noticed that your health and safety is a little bit outdated. Would you like me to do a review and refresh of all your policies and documents? Like, people love that value add stuff, and then that helps you kind of carve your path.
Brilliant. What's your path? Where did you start out as a young, fresh out of school person thinking, here I am in the world, making my mark?
Great question, because my path was a long, windy, weird one.
Why am I surprised?
I think it's so true these days as well. We don't really take these traditional paths anymore. It does happen, but it's more and more common that you don't do the finish high school, go to uni, get a job in that career, stay in that job. So I was actually working in retail management, and the parts of my role that I loved were all the things to do with people. Seeing someone grow and develop through training and coaching, that was really empowering. So I kind of looked at okay, those are the things I do like. How do I make that a full-time job? And then heard about this thing called HR. And I tried to kind of crack my way into a couple roles, exactly like I said, looking at admin, customer service kind of roles. I thought a lot of my skills were transferable. I still do. But at the time, a lot of people were like, hey, look, we want qualifications. And that's from what I hear from a lot of businesses now is still the case. They want someone with those HR quals. So anyone who's listening to this who is in uni, you've done the first right thing to start your career off properly. And then from uni, it was exactly like I said, it was an admin role that I started in, and I was really clear with my employer, I have done an HR degree, that's what I'm interested in, and just started pulling those things out into my role. So I started with, policy reviews, and then I was helping recruit, and then I was helping with difficult conversations, and, my role morphed into a proper HR assistant role. So the path was definitely a weird one, but I think for me, what I've enjoyed about my kind of background is I've got that management commercial experience. So you understand what that manager that's going, I just want to tell this person to get out of this business. You get that, and you're like, there's a process, and let's be fair and reasonable, but I empathize with the frustrating situation you're in.
Yeah, because I was going to say, it seems that so much of it requires an understanding, not just of people, but of the situations that people find themselves in. I suppose it's great then, if people are listening and changing careers, which we see people, that having had all of that experience is actually really great, and then particularly layer on that the qualifications, and likewise layer on top of your qualifications some kind of life experience. Are people coming straight out and leaping straight into HR roles too soon? Should people, or is there a too soon, or within the roles they get, there's plenty of room for them to grow and develop?
I think there's definitely room for people to grow and develop in roles. I'm such a proponent of that. I think any life experience is good. When we leave uni at 20, 21, 22, whatever it is, we think we know everything. And it's this myth of adulting, right? Like you leave uni and suddenly you get handed the keys to being an adult and you know exactly what to do in life. And that is just not true. So I think as long as any grad is leaving with an open mind and really willing to learn and stay curious about themselves and their career path, it doesn't really matter what path you take, because it's really about how you actually show up on that path.
Yeah. What surprised you the most?
Just how complex the role is. Same kind of thing. You go into it and you're like, right, HR is hiring, firing, and then you go to uni and you're like, okay, it's a bit more than that. And then you get into a role and you're like, okay, I'm a firefighter, I'm a psychologist, I'm a teacher, I'm a facilitator, the list goes on and on. So I think, again, it comes back to those core skills that help you navigate that is, knowing what's really important to you, being curious about that, and just, accepting that the role is this weird magical.
And it is weird, and you kind of often think, and to a certain extent, HR is a back office kind of role, but through all the seminars, the podcasts, the things that we've been talking about for the last few years, it's very much at the forefront of everything in terms of driving change, cultural change, management change, industry change, health and safety change. It's for someone who really wants to instigate change, quite an exciting time.
100%. I think HR people really are change makers. Like if I talked about that ripple effect, HR at the center of that, right? Building all these cool things that ripple out to people. And, there's employment law and HR at a kind of government level. There's so much room for change. I mean, we've got fair pay agreements on the horizon, like that the landscape is constantly changing. So if you've got kind of aspirations of that wide national level change, there's opportunities there. There's opportunities to change industries, to change specific organizations, and then just to change people. Like one of my favorite things is when someone comes up to me that I, mentored or supported years ago and is like, I remember that one thing you told me and I've never forgotten it. It's like, oh, I had such a great impact on that person's life. That's incredible.
Yeah. And I often say to people how important it is to actually go up and tell people that because you talk to a lot of people and you give them all of this wonderful advice and you think, oh, I hope they learned something. And that actually, to go back and to say to someone months, years later, hey, you might not remember, but you told me something, and I've never forgotten that. It's just as important as going out there and telling other people about all the great things that there is going
100%.
on. Yeah.
100%.
How's your day to day? Like for someone thinking, I'm going to get into the world of HR and I'm nearly done with my studies. What can they look forward to on a day-to-day basis? How's your day filled up today?
Great question. So my day started off with reviewing a workshop that I ran last week and
How'd that go?
synthesizing
Good.
all those notes.
Oh, synthesizing notes.
Yeah, I like to use the word synthesizing, so it sounds much more exciting than just looking at photos of my own scribbly handwriting on a whiteboard. But it was with a group of leaders, and we talked about kind of their why and what makes their leadership team successful, what skills they need to achieve their goals, and what they want to be not deliverable, what they want to be held accountable for. So my task today that I've been completing is pulling all of those things together to create for them a professional development plan, some KPIs for them as a leadership group, and a leadership charter so they actually stay the course. So it's it's nothing that I thought I'd be doing in uni.
No. Geez, I weed whacked half my lawn. I thought I had quite a successful day. I haven't been changing people and making them, holding them to a charter of being better. What's, for you looking over the next couple of years, any really big challenges that you think are coming up that people should be aware of or have opportunities in, particularly in this ongoing and very quickly changing landscape?
Totally. I think the big thing on the employment relations side, the law side, is the fair pay agreements. That's going to be, if it all goes through, such a massive change for people. And where people are right now post-COVID is so change fatigued. So even if it's a good change, people are just kind of over it. So HR, the role that we play in that, no matter what level we're in, is supporting people through that change, and especially leaders. Leaders and CEOs, and business owners, they kind of often get the bad rap, but they're just struggling through this the way that we all are. It's this crazy, messy world that we live in, and things are so complex, and they're just trying to make their way through as best they can. So, I really see HR as partnering with those people, to support them to get good outcomes for the people on the ground, right? Because if your owner, your leader knows what they're doing and feels confident, everyone else feels good and is part of the journey.
Brilliant. All right. Single greatest success of your HR journey. Is there any one thing you look at and you think, oh, nailed it?
Yeah, great question.
Thanks. I was quite happy with it. I just thought of it myself, actually. Yeah. Yeah.
For me, kind of my why and my kind of purpose is all about empowering other people. So probably my greatest success are those stories I mentioned, where someone's come up to me and said, hey, you shared this thing with me, or you told me about this, and it just really changed my life and it really impacted me positively. Those are the moments that make me go, oh, I'm on this planet for a reason, and I did the thing.
You are, and you're on this planet for a reason, and you can embrace all of your nerdy HR love to just make that world around you a better place.
Totally.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, I think key takeaways for people is be curious and enjoy the journey. Like, if you asked me when I was finishing uni, if what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be in, 5-10 years, I wouldn't have told you the role that I'm currently in. I would have been like, oh, maybe like an employment law specialist, or, helping kind of change the shape of employment law. But the journey that I've been on has been incredible. And I actually feel like my purpose and my sense of being has been, really validated by the work I do. So I think those are the things that are important, right? Like, what do you love doing, and do that.
Exactly. Jocelyn Visser, HR nerd, and I would venture so far as to say an excellent dinner party guest and conversationalist. Because that is the great thing about curious people. They've always got something fascinating that they have discovered and are only too willing to share. If you want to get in touch with Jocelyn, you probably will. You can find out. What's the best way to get in touch with you? Is it through the nebulous world of LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. I'm also happy for people to email me, jocelyn@myhr.works. But honestly, LinkedIn's probably the easiest because I check that fairly often. But always happy to connect and build and grow people. That's why I'm here.
Brilliant. What a wonderful chat on this HR Chats with Me to Radar. And today, HR Chats with Me to Radar and Jocelyn Visser. That is all for now. There you go. Great. If you are getting into the world of HR, completing your studies, we hope you have enjoyed this. If you know someone else who you think, what, I reckon they'd really like HR, but they don't really know what HR is, I would strongly suggest recommending this chat to them, because I think it will empower them and make them a little bit excited. From me, for now, that's all.